Today we will overview two special topics. One is the hierarchical order of gods, of creation. This knowledge is so deep that even in India, very few people know about this. So, Hinduism is the oldest and one of the most evolved spiritual tradition, religion that dives deeply into the realm of gods and goddesses, deities. Now, most assume that Hinduism is polytheistic, meaning there are many, many gods. However, actually, in fact, at the highest level, it is monotheistic. There is one supreme God that gives birth to everything else. And as time goes by, this knowledge degrades, certain lineages go strayed. So time makes its own influence. And looking at many other religions around the world, we may see that they have a common theme. However, some religions assume God to be at certain level of creation. For example, in Bible, it's written that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh day. But which God created which world? These are some big and valid questions. What was the Garden of Eden? That's already not a cosmic story, not a universal story. So similar stories are in other religions around the world, but only very, very few sages and gurus know the highest story of creation, how it all came to be, and how the very famous gods, how they align with each other, who gave birth to whom. So as we know that the three main deities in the yogic traditions, Hinduism, are the Brahman, Vishnu, Shiva, and various lineages focus particularly on the Brahmanic way, or the Vishnu devotional way, or the Shiva, the truth way, holding them as supreme deities that should signify enlightenment, freedom from birth and karma. However, then we find that there are other stories that go deeper into saying that there is a Param Shiva, Param Brahman, even higher aspect than the form. So then it gets more interesting and more complicated. So let's have a look briefly all together now. I will share the screen of the hierarchical order. So this is already published information on New Humanity, Divine Life website. I will show you where you can find it. At the highest level, we have the Sat Purush, which is the Purna Brahm, where Purna means complete. It is the supreme God creator, the highest of the highest, light from which emanated all the divine regions of the same light, the same absolute perfection, the true home. So the Satpurush is the actual name of the very first personification of the highest light of God. This is before any other creation. There were no universes. There were no souls, no gods, no goddesses. Before all creations at any degree, there was the one supreme light from which the very first emanation, I use the word emanation and not creation. So the very first emanation came as Sat Purush. That is the name which signifies the very first personification of God. So Sat Purush gave rise to Para-Brahm and Brahm, and essentially the truest, highest religions, spiritual traditions, Gnostic traditions recognize this highest supreme God. The second step is the Para-Brahm, which is a supreme being that holds dominion over 700 quadrillion multiverses, universes. Now, what a God supreme that is. And this is already at the step of creation, where in the old days, you would say infinite universes were created. It is known that there are 700 quadrillion universes. These universes are high and much more pure. They're independent from our local universe where we are. And Par-Brahm that's where comes the three gods of Param Shiva, Param Brahman, Param Vishnu, of the higher aspects of creators. So this is the place of extremely high level of pure universes, and that's where your Buddhic or Christed self resides. The third step of creation came into existence Brahm, also known as Kal, meaning that it is the creator god of time, also of creation of universes, and also of death. So Brahm holds dominion over 21 multiverses, of which one is ours. Brahm is recognized by other names such as Kal, Jot Niranjan, or Kshar Purush. He is typically portrayed with 1,000 hands. So in Bhagavad Gita and other stories, there are stories where the form of God Creator is revealed. And in those stories, the God reveals himself with 1,000 hands. That's a lot of hands. While the Para-Brahm is revealed with 10,000 hands. Each hand represents qualities of power. So Brahm has 1,000 qualities of power. Para-Brahm has 10,000 qualities, while Satpurush, the highest God, has infinite qualities, infinite hands, we may say. God Brahm is actually a secret, hidden father of what everybody knows of the three gods of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And that's where you will say, hold on. How is that possible? There is Brahman, Vishnu, and Shiva. Nobody told us that they have a father and a mother. Well, they do. And their mother actually is Goddess Durga. So from her, it is that these three sons came, of course, with the impregnation of Brahm and he hid himself in the void so that his three sons would not find him. But after a lot of eons, long periods of time, they did figure it out who their father is. Now, that's a whole story to dive into, but today we're overlooking the biggest picture. So now we come to know that God Brahm or Kal, the God of 21 universes, is the father of the Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And alongside him stands Goddess Durga. It is his wife. Goddess Durga is his wife. So now we see here below this picture where Goddess Durga gives birth to the three sons, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So Goddess Durga is the wife of God Brahm, and she is the mother. She is known as a Mahadevi, the supreme goddess, and it is from her that other 10 Mahavidyas, other 10 supreme goddesses came forth. And consequentially, all other gods and goddesses came from her and God Brahm. Going now to the most common knowledge, that's where we have the three gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are the children of Durga and God Brahm or Kal. And they have equal positions, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. However, their ages differ. Brahma has the shortest lifespan, Shiva has the longest. And each of them have different responsibilities. So Brahma is usually portrayed with four hands. And that's where there are also many stories in Bhagavad Gita and other Vedas and texts that Brahma has four hands. So Brahma is responsible for the creation, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva brings about dissolution, end of cycles, destruction. And it is through their virtues that our local universe, including planet Earth, is governed. So essentially, all three gunas of sattva, sattvic guna, rajasic guna, and tamasic guna, which are the three forces of nature, are attributed to these three gods. And at the lower creation, they make up all five elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, to make up everything that we know of and interact with, and our scientists are investigating. Still not able to figure out ether yet. Right, so this is a hierarchical order of gods. So this in itself alone is a very big revelation that very, very few gurus know about this, because many yogis just pray to Shiva and the others Vishnu and the others Brahma, and by no means they are the supreme god. And they have their own cycles, their lifespans. They got born, they will die or dissolve at some time later, or ascend into their higher forms. So therefore, this knowledge is very, very rare to come across. Now, let's overview the latest changes or updates on the divine cosmology, which got extended. And I will briefly show you, and then you can dive deeper and read more into it. So on New Humanity website, if you go to Consciousness, Divine Cosmology, this is where you will find the updated chart. And right below it, there is the hierarchical order of gods, which we already briefly overviewed. So I'd like to present the latest updates, extension, clarification of divine cosmology, namely that looking from the bottom-up approach, we have the Pinda universe, the biophysical universe, time, space, matter, illusion, five senses. Above it, we have the astral subtle universe, which correlates to unity, inner love, up to unity, inner love consciousness, levels of consciousness. That's the max it goes. So it includes the higher self, known as Saguna Brahma. Saguna is a God in form. So that's where these Trimurti, the three gods of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, are ruling. The Anda universe is about polarities, dualities. There are dark places, and there are beautiful, lovely heavens of love and unity as well. So the fifth dimension and so on, this is right here, the second from the bottom of this chart. All these heavens and stories of Eden are happening at this level, the Garden of Eden. As we go up, I want to emphasize the updates because we have dived a bit deeper into this chart, but now I'll highlight the new information. The third layer or plane of existence is the cosmic, which is a causal universe, Brahmanda. It is where the lower soul is and the I am presence connection starts. And essentially, this is where soul starts to release its karmic patterns or accumulates karmic patterns. But usually from our perspective, that's where you start to release deeper soul karmas. Not emotional ones, but much deeper ones. Why is it written lower soul? I will explain you in a moment. So now we have highlighted in a black color that there is a lower void, which is a lower unconsciousness, here the fourth region, which correlates to non-duality. It actually is interconnected with presence. And this is the birth of the mind, the mental plane, the lower mind. It is the Brahmanda, it is the creation, the abode of Kal, Brahm, the father of the three gods. It is the universal mind. It is the lower unconsciousness. It's a rough patch where, well, those of you who are in presence, non-duality or above, you know that it's not an easy patch to go through because you really work on these karmas, on the deep purifications, clearings. It hits you left and right. But with good support, the journey is a lot easier through it. Because this is the creation of Kal, of time and the Brahm. It's the illusion. So when people awaken to non-dual void, they go through this lower unconsciousness, and some yogis believe that they found God, that now I have the first awakening to non-duality, and they believe that this is God, that the Brahm is the supreme ruler, or there is this universal mind. And this is illusion of finding God. That's not the real God. That has nothing to do with the real liberation. It's far away from it. However, at this stage, a yogi perceiving the whole universe at his foresight will truly feel very powerful and very insightful, and understanding the workings of the universe, merging into the Shiva consciousness or Brahm consciousness or Vishnu consciousness. But this is a trick because this is not a liberation. This is the domain of Brahm or Ka, the lower unconsciousness. So when we go up into the fifth region, the supra-cosmic region, which is correlated to awareness, this is the pure etheric universe or the higher mind, the higher mental universe, which correlates to the higher soul and the perfection of Buddhic or Christed self. So the classical name is Para-Brahmanda of 700 quadrillion universes. Now that's massive, it's huge. The light is way stronger. The perception of universes is way bigger. And that's where 90% of gurus and yogis say, that's it. There's nothing more than that. All those universes are in my sight. This is the God Supreme, Para-Brahman, Param Shiva. That's it. This is the one. And those who awaken at awareness, now the awareness is the supreme light. There's nothing more than that. How can awareness be differentiated? How can awareness be ever qualified? However, as we know, again, this is not the highest supreme light. There is more, it's a huge light. It sustains 700 quadrillion universes, but it's not the supreme light of liberation. So why do we say lower soul here and the higher soul? Because the lower soul, the 21 universes of Brahm, are usually populated by goddess Durga. She gives birth every day. 125,000 souls are born every day, and they populate the 21 lower universes. Now, of course, you might want to say, oh, I don't want her to be my mother. I don't think I'm that soul. Maybe I'm the star seed. Well, actually, even many star seeds would also be born and populated. The souls of the star seeds would also be birthed by Goddess Durga. Now, essentially, she still has the connection of Satpurush, of the God Supreme, because this God Supreme, Satpurush, gave her the power to create souls. So in each of the soul, even if it's born in the lower universe of Brahm, even that soul still has within it the connection to Satpurush. So the indication of lower soul or higher soul, it simply means where it is born, but in its heart, in its essence, it still has the Satpurush. And this is the tricky story of Bible and some of the teachings, that when God created man, that God, by the way, was a very low God. That God of creation of Adam and Eve is the God known as Yahweh. And it's actually one of the cosmic rulers. It's not really God, a geneticist who created man, so to speak, and woman. And the other higher being gave a breath of life. And this breath of life breathes in the soul, attaches the soul to the body. And therefore, God became jealous that man within himself or woman have the connection with Satpurush, with the highest God. So then there are many stories of how this lowest geneticist God tried to suppress, manipulate, and turn off 10 strands of DNA, and thus, as we know, humanity these days have 2 strands of DNA most active, and the other 10 are sleepy strands of DNA until you begin your spiritual journey of awakening. So essentially, the lower soul, it simply means where it's born. If it's born in this universe of Brahm and Kal, that means that this is the entry point where the soul came into. And usually these souls would be not so keen on spirituality or awakening, or they would kind of prefer the lowest regions of spirituality, like astral planes, or in some cases, being very happy that they're star seed, now which there are millions of those who identify being a star seed. And they just simply want to go home to Pleiades or Sirius or Arcturus, wherever, and that's it. They just want to go back home to their constellation origin in 5D. And they're not really interested in self-realization, God realization, true liberation, because they would be just happy with that, just to go back to the other planet somewhere in the local star cluster. So these souls are younger in their nature. They're not so interested in the deepest truths and liberation, self-realization, and so on. Those souls who come from Para-Brahmanda, they have more fire, more stronger will. They know that this whole thing is something is wrong with this. It's something is wrong with the world, something is wrong with the universe, and I have to find out where I truly belong. It doesn't matter if it's this planet or that planet or this constellation, that constellation. The truth must be deeper than that. So there is a much deeper fire, burning desire to become free. And those people are much, much less on earth. And these people are you, of course. And therefore, you're interested in much deeper things. So the higher soul is this soul that came into the supra-cosmic region. There are so many universes of literally beyond your imagination what exists there in 700 quadrillion universes. And above it, we have Mahasunyata, which is the great, great void, which is the higher unconsciousness. And it is this barrier between creation and the pure true home, which is the divine. So now we enter into the divine regions. And this chart, of course, emphasizes the higher nature of existence. And for those who are interested in the lower nature of existence, there is also levels of consciousness, which gradates much more below what is below presence into unity, inner love, inner light, and self-empowerment and victim abuser consciousness. So the levels of consciousness cover very in detail these aspects, and this chart complements the higher levels of consciousness for us to realize what exists in the divine and in the heart of the supreme God. So essentially, the highlights here are that divine love is the entry point, it's the soul plane, the satlok. And in this chart, now we have added the names of the planes. For example, satlok, alaklok, alayalok, agamlok, anamilok, and the highest one is adisat and beyond. Still, it goes above, but it goes infinitely above, where it's so pristine, so deep that, well, this level Meher Baba came to, and he realized that beyond God realization, where the highest of the highest gurus of earth enter into, there is even deeper state called beyond God state. And he went even further deep into God in beyond state. Now the other one would be beyond, 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 and it would go on like that forever. but that's good enough. Let's put it this way. So here we have clarified the names of these highest blissful true regions of absolute perfection beyond creation. Here what we have is emanation, not creation. Creation is below. Here is emanation. There is no creation, no time, no death, no atoms, no matter, no energy as such. Above is emotionless divinity, blissfulness, love. It's so vast that only here the word infinite applies to. Here we have further clarified that divine truth is the next step, and then begins full consciousness, and it goes up and up and up and up and up, deeper, 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 infinitely deeper. The samadhi bliss goes infinitely deeper into pristine, indescribable states. So these are the key highlights of the divine cosmology. And now we have extended the story of creation about the hierarchical order of gods. So remember that this level, that right here, everywhere, is Sat Purush. It's the very first personification of God Supreme, and above is his heart. It's the infinite light. And the personification supreme is his very first emanation of his supremacy. And from, I'm saying his, but it's not he, it's not she. There is no gender really at this stage. So there's no male and female aspects there. The male-female aspects split below in the creation. So at this level, it is Purush who is the purest, supreme, infinite, eternal, divine being from whom all those universes came into existence below. So this is a brief overview today, and we will continue exploring much deeper. We will, in the future, publish more articles of these interesting stories and creation and structure and nature, because that gives you a recognition of what truly exists above. This is extremely important because without this knowledge, you would read the books, you would meditate, you would travel around the world in India and Asia and in the West or wherever you would go, and you would think that this God is the highest and everybody prays to him and millions of people worship him. That should be the one, you know? And then you read other books and they say, yeah, it's the one. And most of the books in the world are focused on the lower creation. The whole Bible is primarily focused on the lower creation. However, Jesus comes from Satlok. He comes from the highest regions, and he is a ladder, one of the ladders of liberation. The same way with some other high beings or Sat Gurus. A Sat Guru, in its true term, is a being who comes or has access or abides in this Satlok or the pure divine abode. And well, another little juicy story that the famous Sadguru that we have in the world, let's say it does not function at that level, unfortunately. So he adopted that name, but he functions in the why. I will tell you why, important, so that it's clear. Because he worships Shiva and he built a huge statue of Shiva and he calls him the Adi Yogi, who is the first being who brought yoga to the world. And and supposedly will liberate everyone. And perhaps, maybe Sadhguru, the famous one on the media, maybe he goes deeper into the Param Shiva, but I haven't come across him speaking of it. But maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe you can find that out. I didn't look too deep into him. But essentially, he's a big Shiva worshiper and does all the ceremonies and everything. In this regard, whenever I mention somebody, there is no judgment. There is no saying somebody is better than anybody else. So please understand that he helps a lot of people. He helps millions of people. He does a great, beautiful work around the world. So from this regards, he is beautiful. He is amazing, truly amazing being and helps millions of people. And I'm simply speaking from the perspective from where he functions. So please understand this. So there's absolutely no judgment in it. And the same goes for all other gurus at whichever degree they are. We have also updated the levels LOCs of spiritual teachers, so you can go and check it out on the website as well. And again, it is not a judgment. Read the LOC precautions, and they're all amazing beings. So this is an important disclaimer to make, to know that nobody fires up their egos and then goes and says, like, oh, he's not the real guru and this and that. No, he's good. So never judge, never demean anyone, never criticize anyone. Don't give any fuel to your ego. That's a really important thing. Keep yourself in the heart. And of course, if you know the higher truth, you simply become more humble if you know more higher truth. So this higher truth is revealed to you to be more humble for your own sake, for your own discernment, for you to realize the true liberation, for you to truly reach the highest supreme light. This is why I bring it to you. Please know this. Please put it in your hearts, in your souls, and know it deeply within you.